Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and your leadership really has been outstanding. One of the things that you look for when you're governor, you're trying to figure out, where can you really effectuate change around the state? You need good partners on the ground. You need good leaders who care deeply about their communities, and the mayor has been that great leader. And so it's easy when you say, I'm delivering. It's easy to deliver when the city has such great leadership. And I want to extend that same compliment to the elected officials from this area, because they've been vocal on behalf of the people of Rockford, the people of Winnebago County, and this entire region. And I've been pleased and proud to work with them in a bipartisan fashion in Springfield. Republicans and Democrats don't always get along on every issue, as you know. But in terms of delivering what's most needed for working families, I think we've done a pretty good job of getting along and getting things done. So I want to thank them for their work and their partnership. I'm really proud to be here to follow through on a pledge to save lives and to make our roads safer. To the members of the Rockford Police Department for hosting us, thank you. And to all the sheriffs and officers and emergency responders and workers and state troopers and so many others that are here today, thank you too. Thank you for your public service. I want to recognize the work of the other public servants, many of whom are standing behind me, who've committed themselves to protecting our police and to protecting those who build our roadways. First, I want to start with our Illinois State Police Director, Brendan Kelly, who has led on this issue in particular, this issue of officer safety, since the very first moment that he took office. I'm really proud to have you in my cabinet and have you leading public safety in our state. I also want to say to the chief sponsors of Scott's Law, Representative Evans, who's here, and Assistant Majority Leader Munoz, thank you for your leadership on this. To the chief sponsors of the Move On Task Force, Representative Butler and Senator McConkey, thank you. We also have other people who've been sponsors and leaders and advocates for this here, Representatives Hoffman and Cabello and West, Senators Stottleman and Stewart and Anderson. All of them did their part to make sure that the other representatives and senators in Springfield understood the importance of standing up for our first responders and for those who put their lives at risk on our roadways. Secretary Osman, who's here at the head of our Department of Transportation, for his unwavering efforts to keeping construction workers safe. And that's very important as we roll out our improvements to roads and bridges all across the state as a result of the Rebuild Illinois capital plan. And to all the other advocates for these new laws who were unable to be here in Rockford today. You may not know them, or you may, but these are people who are thinking of you and who stand up for you in Springfield, and that includes Representatives Batnick and Kalish and Representative Edley Allen. They too deserve our gratitude today. I also want to acknowledge that while Scott's Law was named for Lieutenant Scott Gillen, these new protections that we're signing into law today also carry the memories of the more recently loved and lost Trooper Brooke Jones Story, Trooper Chris Lambert, and too many others who have paid the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. Please join me in a moment of silence for those fallen troopers and so many others. There are few times that this office weighs heavier on me than when we lose someone who has dedicated their life to our state. And the depth of grief felt by their families is boundless. That grief is compounded by the senselessness of a death caused by a driver who was distracted or careless or rushed. Since 2002, Scott's law has said that drivers approaching a vehicle with their hazard lights on must slow down and move over. It's not optional. This is how we keep our heroes and our first responders and workers as safe as possible in their line of work. The people of Illinois get to live their lives because law enforcement officials go to work each day risking theirs. The original legislation that's been on the books for more than a decade has been important, yet we're seeing violations, increases in violations, citations on the rise even today. It's unacceptable. And the legislation that I'm signing today enhances penalties for those who don't obey Scott's law. It increases fines and puts jail time on the table if the infraction results in harm to other people. Revenue from those infractions will go into a fund to educate drivers about Scott's law and road safety. Because we can only hold so many press conferences and stand up and talk to people about slow down and move over. And I want to say it today again, slow down and move over when you see lights flashing on the highway. You should understand that there are people whose lives are at risk. But no matter how many times I say it, we need to make sure that we're expounding on that we're amplifying that, and this fund will help to do that. This new and enhanced law protects those whose employment requires them to pull over on the highway, to be on the highway. Along with these increased enforcement mechanisms, I'm signing into law the creation of the Move Over Task Force, which will study Scott's law violations to determine how to continually improve our protection of law enforcement, emergency responders, and civilians. And we're signing a bill that increases protections for construction workers and traffic controllers so that we can further protect them from roadway tragedies. No policy will ever restore the lives or the loss of the families of Trooper Gillen, Trooper Jones Story, and Trooper Lambert, nor will the loved ones of the construction workers or emergency responders who are killed on the job ever feel that their lives are made whole again. But with these laws, we are cementing our state's commitment to safety going forward, helping to protect the people who make our world better, our lives easier, or our families safer. Now I'd like to introduce one of the chief sponsors of the Scott's Law improvement, and that's a leader, someone that people look up to in Springfield. He is, in fact, a leader in our state Senate, and that is Senator Munoz. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you, Governor. To the mayor here, to my colleagues in the Senate and in the House, thank you for doing a great job on this bill. And to all the law enforcement here from all over, excuse me, it is unfortunate that we had to do this bill enhancing the penalties, just as the governor just said. But it's a shame that people throughout the state don't pay attention, or if they've been drinking, they shouldn't have been driving, and they're taking lives away senselessly. And that is, I'll give you a simple example, the 3 troopers that lost their lives in the line of duty trying to help someone that needed help. We could never repay their families for the loss. And it's a shame that we have to do this bill today. But nonetheless, we are doing it for the protection, not only of law enforcement throughout the state, but first responders. It gives the ability to the judges, state's attorneys, to do enhanced penalties and send them to prison. Not only that, to do fines. If it's an accident, then it's an accident. But right now, it's been a shame. 3 troopers have lost their lives senselessly in this year alone. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been my honor, my pleasure to work on this bill. Hopefully we can prevent and show the citizens of this state that we mean business, to please slow down when you see law enforcement or first responders doing their job, trying to help out citizens of this great state. Thank you.
And now I'd like to introduce the House Chief Sponsor of the bill, Marcus Evans.
I really want to applaud Governor Pritzker again, talking about doing something and taking the lead and working with the Senate and the House. In the House, Marcus Evans, a representative, had the honor to chief sponsor this bill, but it was a true team effort in the House. I've worked with Leader Hoffman, Jay Hoffman, and I talked to Representative Cabello, and Representative Maurice West, and Representative Butler, and the 4 of us mainly, but many other representatives talked about this issue. And I talked to the police officers like Representative Cabello about the near accidents, about the actual fatal accidents that we know about. What about the near accidents and how we're not making this a priority? So thank you, Governor Pritzker, for sending a message. Yes, there's a penalty enhancement, but most importantly is there's awareness enhancement. We have to put the cell phones down. We have to stop the distractions in our vehicles and respect these police officers. Thank you for what you do. We love you. Officer of Illinois, we want to be an example to the entire state, and that example is being headed up by the great Governor Pritzker. Thank you, sir. And again, go home to your families of first responders and police officers. We love you and we appreciate your work. And as I mentioned, again, a great police officer here in Rockford. Round of applause for Representative Cabello. This is a great day. Representative Cabello in the House.
Good morning and welcome to the Rockford Police Department. We have 3 great police departments. We're led by an unbelievably great man by the name of Dan O'Shea, who has turned this department into what it is today, and we appreciate that. This law is giving us the opportunity of doing something that we needed to do and show the law enforcement officers, the first responders, that we are here to protect the protectors. Because from here on out, we need to show in every General Assembly from here on that we care about our first responders, we care about our law enforcement. There is no greater job for me as a representative than to be able to protect the men and women that I'm honored to work next to. Thank you for the bipartisan support. Thank you for sitting down, hashing this out in a gentleman's fashion. And I appreciate it very much, Governor.
Thank you.
And as the Governor reminded me, I need to introduce Representative Tim Butler.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Tim Butler. I'm a state representative from Springfield and Mayor. As a rep from Springfield, I understand that the governor spends a lot of time in Rockford, but I certainly hope that he thinks of Springfield as his second home and not Rockford. Governor, thank you. First home. There you go. All right. There we go. All right. Governor, first of all, let me thank you for the work that you've done and your team that's done on this legislation. We worked on Scott's Law legislation now for several years, and it finally came together this spring. To Director Kelly, you're doing a great job, and as I mentioned to you earlier, it's really good to drive down the highways of Illinois and see so many more troopers out on patrol that we've seen in the past. So thank you for what you've done. To a couple members of your staff, John Thompson, Joe Hutchins, who sat in the room and helped us negotiate this. Thank you to you guys for doing that. To my colleagues from the legislature, as you can see with all of us here today from around the state, this was a very bipartisan, collaborative effort to get this done. But particularly Representative Cabello and Leader Hoffman, Jay Hoffman. It was a phone call from Jay Hoffman after Trooper Jones' Story died to myself and Representative Cabello that got things moving on this. That really got things moving on this and got us where we are at today. So I appreciate the work that Jay did and all of us did to to bring this together. So thank you all for the work that you've done. You know, I drove up here from Springfield today, and I saw about a half a dozen instances as I drove up 55 and 39 of people not obeying Scott's law. It's still a problem today, and it continues to be a problem. So I'm glad to see that this legislation is going into effect. I'm glad to see we're going to continue to work on it through the task force. I'm glad to see Secretary Osmond here today, because IDOT plays a big role in educating people on this as well. And I know IDOT will do a good role with that. You know, last week, a week ago Saturday, we added Trooper Jones' Story name to the wall, to the ISP Memorial Wall in Springfield. And it was a great day. It was a wonderful crowd that was there. But hopefully by signing this legislation, we can stop adding names to that wall in the future. That's the goal. So Governor, thank you for doing this. It's an honor for me to be here today. And just remember, slow down, move over. And see, let me introduce Leader Jay Hoffman, my good friend from St. Clair County. There we go. So there you go.
Well, thank you, Tim. This all really started a long time ago, actually, when Representative Cabello and Representative Butler, as well as our Senator Munoz, had put forward legislation to enhance Scott's law. Unfortunately, it took the loss of some of our finest in order to bring this to fruition. And Tim was right. First, the governor's office called and took the lead and said we have to do something about this. Director Kelly of the state police called and said we need to do something about this. And I called Representative Cabello and Representative Butler, as well as Senator Munoz and others, to let's get together and let's put partisanship aside. Let's put fights between the House and the Senate aside. And the governor's office took the lead, and this is what happens when you work together. So hopefully this bill is going to be successful. I think the educational component is as important as anything in this bill. But it also made sense to us that if you have enhancements, if you violate work zone speed limits or work zone traffic regulations, that first responders should be treated the same way while they're doing their work on the side of the road. So this reflects that. I would just like to thank the governor for his leadership. I'd also like to introduce Illinois State Police Director Brendan Kelly, who actually was the state's attorney in St. Clair County, where I represent, and is a constituent of mine. I'm kind of sad that he took over, happy he took over as a director, but sad because now he's prohibited from putting my sign in his yard. Right? Director Kelly.
We'll find a spot for it. Don't worry. Good morning. On behalf of the 2,700 men and women of the Illinois State Police, my thanks to Governor Pritzker, members of the Illinois General Assembly, all the senators and representatives that are here that made today possible, as well as the staff from the Illinois State Police that worked on this bill and worked with these representatives to make this happen. As most of you already know, to date, this year, we have had 22 crashes involving stationary Illinois State Police vehicles with emergency lights that have been activated. This number is higher than the number of all ISP crashes of this sort that occurred in 2018 and 2017 combined. And for the first time in 66 years, the Illinois State Police lost 3 troopers in 1 year. Trooper Christopher Lambert, Trooper Brooke Jones-Story, and Trooper Gerald Ellis. 2 of these tragic crashes allegedly involved violations of the Move Over law. The pain that their families had to bear in the name of public safety is hard to put into words. The men and women of the Illinois State Police are grateful for the words of support of the past few months from so many that are here today and from around the state and from around the country. And today we continue to turn those words into actions. So far this year, the Illinois State Police troopers have written over 5,000 move-over citations, which is more than 9 times the amount of citations written at this time last year. It was only 543. And more than 5 times the number of citations written in all of 2018. With the governor signing this bill today, we are not only strengthening Scott's law, but we'll be able to better measure the effectiveness of our actions through the Move Over Task Force. This task force will study Scots law violations with special attention to the causes of these violations and ways to protect law enforcement, emergency responders, and others doing the good work of protecting public safety. This is another example in our time where the fate of the public is tied to the fate of those who serve as law enforcement and first responders. Those who serve have families and hopes and dreams like everyone else, but they have taken on the special duty of protecting everyone else's family and hopes and dreams. That duty is not a vain or empty one, it is fundamental. So we all have a duty to protect those who have sworn to protect all of us. These are only first steps in that effort. For the task force, enforcement and education, as the governor said, and as everyone has said, enforcement and education will go hand in hand. So every opportunity must be taken to educate. So slow down, move over. That's all you have to do to save lives. It's just that simple. Thank you. Let me introduce my counterpart at IDOT, who I'm very proud to be in the cabinet with. That's the IDOT Secretary, Secretary Usman.
Thank you, Director. Good morning. I'm honored to be here today. Safety is always number one priority at IDOT. That will never change. On behalf of the entire 5,100 strong team at IDOT, I want to thank you, Governor Pritzker, for pushing this issue to the forefront. Every year, just about every year, my team and I have to make the difficult visit or a phone call to a family member who lost a loved one who was hit when simply doing their job. Day in, day out, we have highway maintainers patching potholes, snow plows drivers cleaning roads, and men and women in work zone working on projects to make life better for the people of Illinois. Each time they go to work, they are putting their lives on the line while serving the public. Scots law is something we care about deeply at IDOT. Over the years, for whatever reason, we are having more and more close calls. It is scary out there. Some of it is caused by distracted driving, a lack of common courtesy, or lack of awareness about the law. Whatever the reason, it must stop, and it must stop now. I give enormous credit to the governor and the General Assembly for tackling this troubling trend. I'm bringing the stakeholders to the table to work on a solution. This is coming at a critical time. Earlier this month, I had the privilege of joining the governor as he visited communities around the state to celebrate the passage of Rebuild Illinois, the largest capital program in state history. We are going to be very busy at IDOT, and IDOT is going to be out in the field in the coming month and years, a lot. If you are driving on Illinois roads, you will be sharing the roads with our co-workers. We must let them know that we are doing everything we can to protect them. They deserve it. Their families deserve it. It is the least we can do. I don't want to keep making those difficult phone calls. This is a big, big step in the right direction. Thank you, Governor, and the legislators that have made this law possible. Thank you. And now it's my pleasure to bring our governor back to the podium for some Q&A. Governor.
Thank you. Actually, we're going to start with a bill signing first.
Okay.
Everybody gather around here.
Can we move the vote in? Yeah. Let's take it over.
Not moving too far.
Yeah, take it all the way up to the wall. Then we pull it back.
All right, happy to take any questions from members of the media, and the sponsors, the chief sponsors and sponsors may want to join me back here in case they have questions that they might answer for you. So. I'll just make one comment, and then I want to turn it over to our state police director, who can answer that as well, and probably with more specificity on the numbers. But you heard him say something important that I'm not sure you may not have paid attention to, which was how many violations have already been issued this year. And that's in part because of stronger enforcement. And that's something that the state police is committed to, and I know others are committed to. This law certainly enhances penalties, but it also is incumbent upon all of us to enforce that law. You know, as Representative Butler said on his way here, I think you said you saw 6 violations himself, and I know he would have pulled them over if he could have. But truthfully, I mean, so many people are violating this law and aren't getting caught for it, and the result is that people just think it's something that's okay. They can get away with it. So because so many more violations are being discovered and people are being issued citations, I think the word is going to get out as a result of that, as well as the word that you're going to help us get out about slow down and move over. So, well, the task force, of course, is going to play a big role in amplifying that too. But I want to turn it over to Brendan Kelly, because he may have some other detail for you.
So, as I mentioned before, the numbers have increased significantly, 9 times over what it was last year in terms of the number of move-over law violations which have been issued just by the Illinois State Police. That's not to mention what other police departments are doing, what other sheriff's departments are doing. That's just the Illinois State Police. And while I don't want to be too optimistic, and while we have a lot of work still to do, and this is only the first step in a longer effort, you can kind of feel it that I think people are starting to get it a little bit. I watch it wherever I go, if I'm driving or if I'm a passenger, and I see, if I see a trooper on the side of the road doing a motorist assist or some type of law enforcement action, you're starting to see more people slow down. You see all the red light breaks, going on, and you see people moving over. I think they're starting to realize that it's an offense that you have to, it's a part of the law that you have to obey. So I think it is happening, but I think it's going to have to depend on our long-term numbers. That's something that the task force is going to look at. How many of these incidents are occurring? Many of the crashes that we have impacted the Illinois State Police occurred earlier in the year. Again, I don't want to be too overly optimistic, but it feels like something's happening. I hear people talking to me about it all the time. They're thinking about it. It's something in the public's mind that maybe wasn't before. If you think about it, 40 years ago, nobody wore seatbelts. It took a huge effort, like click it or ticket, to get people to change their conduct. That's what we're going to have to do with the move over law. It's going to be a sustained effort to educate people, change the culture. Enforcement and education are 2 sides of the same coin in this effort. Sure. Law enforcement, sheriffs, chiefs of police, our firefighters. We have people from the insurance industry that have a lot of the data about some of these accidents, which is going to be helpful. People involved in media, helping to educate people who are involved in the prosecution side of the issue, as well as people involved in the court system. So it's a very large group. The members of the General Assembly will be involved. And the idea is that we look at this issue, see what's going on around the country, some best practices that maybe we can implement here, things that our troopers are observing, things that other members of law enforcement are observing, ideas that they have, and make recommendations to the General Assembly. This is not it for them. They want us to bring back to them more solutions, some specific things that they can take action on beyond just penalty enhancements. That's one way to get people's attention. But technology, looking at how our roads are designed, looking at maybe where the rumble strips are on the side of the road, looking at what types of warning systems could be available to law enforcement in their vehicles, the technology that's available out there to warn them, cameras on different angles of vehicles to be able to have better evidence and better enforce these violations. So we're going to look at everything, and we're going to bring it back to the legislature, and we're going to keep going from there.
Yep, thank you.